Tēnā koutou and welcome to the Manawatū People's Radio and Manawatū Standard By-Election special. We have Jimmy Ellingham, senior reporter with the Manawatū Standard here. He'll be asking questions from readers and listeners shortly. But first I will be interviewing our next candidate in the Palmerston North City Council by-election. He is a hopeful vying for the seat left vacant by Tangi Utikere after his successful bid to be MP for Palmerston North in 2020. And in this episode, we have James Candish. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
So, you are an Ashurst resident, I think the only Ashurst resident in the lineup this time round. Yep. You'll be familiar, of course, with Alicia Rutherford.
Very familiar, absolutely.
Has she been giving you some trade secrets?
She has been, yes. She's been very supportive, actually, very nice.
Yep.
So I've known Alicia for a long time, so watched her grow and get to where she is now and stuff. So, very exciting to see. So.
You proudly cite in your candidate statement that you live, work and run a business in Ashurst. You are shamelessly promoting the business here. I'm assuming you're on your lunch break.
I am, absolutely. So, back into it today. So, yes, very Ashurst proud, absolutely. So, lived in Ashurst all my life, Ashurst school. Grown up in the village, now working in the village. Board chair as well of Ashurst School, so certainly enjoying that role and putting back all those years later.
Do you think that being in Ashurst is actually going to do you some good in terms of the overall vote, because you know pretty much everyone in Ashurst, particularly in your job you'll meet pretty much everyone who's got a vehicle in Ashurst. Is that going to give you a bit of an advantage over people that are fighting for votes in the main city?
Yep, I would have thought so, certainly for those Ashurst votes. I've been there a fairly long time now, so in business for 14 years in Ashurst. You meet and greet a lot of the locals. And I guess, just always trying to do our best where we are and stuff like that as well. So I think we come with a fairly high level of respect and stuff. Certainly, the people we've talked to and the support we've got has been all very good and very positive. So, Ashurst is home. We've got it pretty well wrapped up, hopefully, so we'll soon see.
What's driven you to stand for council? On the face of it, Ashurst has some significant challenges at the moment with the Gorge alternative route and the issues there. Yep. Has that bred a sense of community that is getting more involved in local government, or are there other things that you're thinking of that you want to achieve?
There's a fair few things I'd like to achieve. There's quite a few different reasons and stuff as well. I have been part of the local issue steering group, made up of a couple of councillors, mayor, deputy mayor, a few officers and just a few key business people, principal, and obviously part of the school as well as part of that. And it's quite amazing to see, just with the right small little group, just the stuff that they can get changed, the support, the ideas that come from a little working group like that. So have certainly enjoyed my role in that group. Myself as well, got a bit of a passion for governance, so I'd like to see a little bit more of that. Had an accident 4 years ago, which has ruined my right wrist. So my right wrist has now been fused, it doesn't move, which makes fixing cars extremely frustrating. So sort of a little bit forced off the tools, which is a bit unfortunate. I quite enjoyed spinning spanners. I love my job, but with that challenge. Just that steer towards governance, and working within a little bit of automotive industry as well. But the local government stuff, I'd love to give locals a little bit of support in that role. I think it's a fairly thankless job. They get a fair bit of grief, I've been fairly sheltered this election myself so far, but watching some of the grillings and stuff that other candidates are getting from our locals, there's a lot of pressure on them to make sure the job is done right. So,
obviously, as a city councillor, you are instructed and in essence take an oath to represent everybody in Palmerston North.
Yep.
Is that something you can honestly do, or will you have an Ashurst lens to things?
No, not at all. So, I'm big on community culture. Ashurst is a key interest because I live there, and I witness all of the problems myself every day. So whether that's going over the third Jaraba that's a little bit rough, or witnessing or being nearly taken out by the dangerous traffic on some of those intersections at the moment and stuff. It's home, and those are the issues that I see. But it's certainly it's a little bit frustrating, I suppose, to watch some of the issues that other residents have, just not knowing how to get that support and to make a change for all those things. Obviously, we're all able to ring in and complain about that Jaraba. Giving a little bit more education, I suppose, to some of these people and give them the support to be able to make a little bit more movement themselves. So.
Well, since we're on the subject of roads, we cannot speak to a candidate for the council living in Ashurst without talking about the new intersection at the Ashurst Tavern.
Oh, you certainly can.
That was a response to the need for traffic calming measures in lieu of the gorge being shut. Is it appropriate? Was the community consulted? Has it backfired? What's your stance on that new intersection?
My stance? On paper, the intersection looks good. I don't think you could have given any more community consultation around any of those roads. I have emailed NZCA this morning just trying to get a number of actually how many in Ashurst alone, just how many open days ahead for feedback and information. I think they put a fairly good effort in, and some of the feedback we'd given them, we did see changes and stuff like that with it as well. So it was, we'd actually shifted house in the last couple of months, but prior to that there was some changes to a road we were living off. We had some concerns, and it was redrafted. It was seen, it was changed. So I think they were certainly open to ideas. Myself, I think the intersection on paper looked like it was going to work okay. It's certainly not safe enough or good enough at the moment. Something needs to change there.
What's the reason for that, though? Because I've seen that, and people are citing that there needs to be better signage or better layout, but at the end of the day, it is a road that conforms with all the rules of our land. If people aren't following the signage, is that the road's fault or the driver's?
It's certainly not the road's fault. And I myself, so with the new measures and stuff, and that was part of that Ashurst working group, so Dave from Ashurst Engineering had a couple of good options. He's right on the intersection, or one of the intersections involved. Just to see a few little more improvements made at the time, and I certainly know it made a big difference. The first couple of weeks were very dangerous. With that new signage and stuff they've got there, it's pretty good, but there are still a few that are just using it to cut through. So I don't think it'd take too much more. It'd be nice to see it left open. What that looks like, whether it's a Jaraba or something in the middle, just to slow it down and stop it a little bit more. I think the signs are pretty clear. There's a bit of habit in there, I suppose, for a few, and even the Google Maps part. So we all jumped on Google and just put a bit of pressure, a few extra emails to try and get it changed on Google Maps, and even changing Google Maps changed things significantly, fairly quickly.
If you are successful as a candidate and become one of the 16 round the table, you will be part of a governance team that gives the green light to one of the biggest infrastructure costs in generations, which is the new wastewater treatment solution, which is yet to be fully costed out and decided upon.
Yep.
And this also coincides with the potential of central government coming on board and taking over the three waters monitoring and infrastructure. This is going to be a really big juggling act over the next term of council. What's your positioning on this? Do you have a preference for a solution, a preference for how it's handled? How do you see this happening?
Yep, it's going to be massive, absolutely. I guess, it's a little bit hard at the moment until we see how government's going to take over and what changes there. So in speaking with someone the other day, that change is coming. So that's going to be very interesting to see what it does in terms of, for ratepayers, for example, what extra funding or central government funding we can get for that. Something's got to change. Ideally, we need to see. It'd be nice to see it out of the river. Obviously, I don't think there's just anyone apart from people. I guess if you look long term, it needs to come out of the river. We need to spend that money for a long term option. I'm very big thinking. I like to look out much further and future, and I think that's a big part, which would be nice to see a little bit more of done for our generation now, I suppose, in previous councils and stuff, to see that little bit more foresight to have preempted this a little bit less painfully for our current ratepayers. So, but it's going to be a very much watch this space to see, I guess, what government's position and all that stuff is going to be first.
In your candidate statement, you finish with the statement that you want to help our diverse city thrive, and you want to champion the people of Palmerston North. When it comes to sitting down round that table, what sort of things will you be advocating for in particular, and also what might you be opposing that you can see on the journey ahead?
Yep. So I guess everyone comes from their passion and their experience. So for me, I've done 14 years of local business. I've got a very tight network of local businesses that we use and support. And I've been a huge part having those businesses to support me through those tough times. So whether that's too busy, not busy enough, difficult work situations, it's quite nice to have that background. But also, it'd be nice to see maybe a little bit more support there as well from council for those businesses. They are a huge part of our town. There's little bits, I think, potentially too, with some of the situations we've seen this year through COVID experiences. Businesses rely on council to be holding our central government to account for some of the support that they need and stuff like that as well. So, and I'm not talking at all any kind of financial support, but certainly stepping up and helping them. Different advice, different support, and some of that stuff I've been part of that has been released by government and stuff has been huge. Big fans of Cedar locally and stuff like that as well. I think they're doing an amazing job. So local business is my big push and support. I've struggled through it myself. There's stuff you learn on your toughest days, at your lowest moments, and then whether that's a bad Google review or a staff member leaving or something like that. There's stuff in that role that you learn. Isn't
social media wonderful? I was going to ask you about CEDA actually, because I would assume that most people would see the City Council's investment in CEDA as the support for SMEs. Yep. But you feel there is more that could be done in that space, and if we do have a central economic development agency, should it not be that organisation that works harder to support businesses rather than doubling up and getting the council to do it? Yep,
yeah, and that's all it's all a bit different too, I suppose. So I look at different areas. I guess local councils. Ties with local government, so you've got people sitting in both roles there, or flying a flag for those different roles. Like we've got good access through to government through those people, you would have thought. It all life changes. So COVID changed things dramatically, and there's all sorts of little bits in there, whether that's car parking spaces or road developments. They all affect business. And it gets a bit frustrating to see some of the locals complaining about some of the changes that are made, with no idea on the effect and how hard it has been for these businesses. Like these are mum and dad businesses busting their gut to do what they can, and some of those changes for them is just that last little bit of pressure that sets it off.
Very good. We'll turn over to Jimmy Ellingham from The Standard for some questions from readers and listeners.
Thank you, Fraser, and thanks, James. You've mentioned supporting local businesses. What would be one of the first things that Councillor James Candish, if you were elected, would do? What's one of the things you'd say, this is what I want to achieve and this is how I'm going to do it?
Yep. Again, like we sort of touched on, so some of the extra, I guess it's cheering for those businesses. So whatever that support kind of looks like, just making sure. So one example, I also had it with the Motor Trade Association. As soon as COVID was coming out, there were some big changes there. some very quick thinking that needed to be done. MTA came out to us and said that you're essential, you need to carry on, you can carry on. I've got a sister that owns a bakery in town, and they were also told you're essential, you need to carry on. So they were very quick at trying to get some stock in with all the logistical issues coming up. And then very quickly, as everyone was learning about the situation, again, the beautiful thing of social media and the pressure coming on there, and then the government's backstepping and coming back and saying, no, bakeries are not essentials, automotive is not essential unless it's essential. Then the way that there was, I guess the role that we saw from local councillors towards that business was out of line. It was pretty tough to see the way that was then handled through basically at a social media level to these businesses. So my sister, for example, was scared that she was going to lose her entire business with what was happening. They were only new in the game, running at a lot of debt and a lot of pressure, and the council's support to them made it a whole lot harder.
So you want to change that, so council is supporting businesses rather than perhaps what you're saying the other way around on occasions. Yeah,
and that's it. And that's all still very personal, very one-on-one. These are, again, personal experiences that build that desire to see change in some of those areas. I feel I've got an awful lot to offer. I like to think I bring a fairly high level of integrity and common sense, I suppose, are my two big things. And that palmy culture, I think we could, the support of social media, I think, has seen a decline. Most of our people living in our city love our city. It gets a bit of a bad rep from other parts of the country, but we love Palmy. Palmy's home. And if we supported each other a little bit friendlier and kinder, I think we could see some awesome changes in the way some of that works.
Perhaps on the topic of supporting people, we've talked with many people this morning about social housing, and what's your position on that? Should that be something the council's doing, and should it be doing more of or less of? What do you think about that?
It would certainly be nice to see a little bit more support there from from central government. Council's in a position, they've got some assets, and it's, I guess, utilising all of those assets in a better way for all of Palmerston North. And certainly, if they've got the ability to do some, it would be nice to see a little bit more support in that area. Absolutely.
One thing I've noticed about your candidate profile is many people, I know you don't have to do this, they say they're independent or independent Labour or whatever it might be. You don't have anything there, but do you have a political leaning or anything, or are you standing as a purely independent candidate?
So purely independent, I would say very central, obviously in business. There's different views and opinions, and I guess, again, different learnings and different areas that are important to me, and that's, all purely, again, through what I see. But no, I certainly don't have any affiliations with any party. I'd love to see some changes to be able to change that as well in local government, or central government as well, so, Got
a couple of minutes left, so I'll have to rush through these final ones. We've got a lot of questions from readers, and they're along the lines of how will you fix our roads? So if we could just ask about the roading question, if you like, and including what's your stance on cycleways, as many people asked about that, both people who are pro and anti them. So what's your stance? What's your position?
And again, that future planning. If we can start working on some of that stuff now, and any future developments and stuff, obviously need to keep that stuff in mind. What's going to be required for later for logistical stuff. Cycleways are needed. Certainly witnessed some fairly dangerous stuff myself at cycles. More people would use them if it was safer to do so. Certainly pleased to see the new cycleway coming through with the new road.
The Gorge Road.
The new Gorge Road, and obviously finally our extension of the clip-on bridge and stuff to get over Ashes and stuff like that as well. So it's a huge asset, it's a massive draw card. There's a significant cost at the initial, but again, the next generation are going to see fruits from that investment now.
And just finally, as we have our final few seconds, we've been asked to ask every candidate who nominated you and who seconded you.
Yep. So a customer of mine seconded me because the other one I was trying to get to didn't quite make it. So he's a very good customer of mine, and as I do last minute, dropping past, he walked into work, so I got him to second that, and he's very supportive. And I'd have to go back and double think who my first nomination was. For that possibly.
If anyone's particularly interested, I think they can check at the council.
Yeah,
so.
My biggest fan, probably my wife. So.
Thank you, James.
Thanks.
Yes, thank you, James. We're out of time, but all the best on the campaign and for the election results on the 22nd.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
And yes, that's it. Remember, you can find other episodes of this by-election special series on the website, npr.nz/show/by-election 21. We're also running this series at 9 a.m. Monday to Friday in the first week of February on 999 AM and via our live stream at npr.nz. Of course, keep an eye on the Manawatū Standard for further coverage of the candidates and their campaigns in the lead up to the results being announced on the 22nd of February. And remember, your vote must be posted in a DX mailbox or handed in at the council by 12 p.m. on Wednesday the 17th of February to count in this election. Thank you for joining us. Tēnā koutou.